Applied I-cord is a great way to make a smooth rolled edge on knit projects. You can use it either just as a decorative element that looks nice on its own, or to prevent curled edges in a project. Either way, it's a simple technique and it's something you can add easily to any pattern. Hi, I'm Hannah from knitting.com, and today we'll learn how to add an applied I-cord edge to a project. You can use this finish on one or two sides of a row, but it does need to be done while working flat back and forth, and doesn't really work for projects knitting around. Today, I'll show you how to add it to both sides of a flat piece of knitting. I'll be showing you on a garter stitch swatch so that the I-cord is super easy and visible. However, you can use this edge on any stitch pattern. If you're going to practice with me today, you'll need to have knitting needles and yarn. That's it. If you're ready, let's get started. Today, we're going to learn how to do applied I-cord. You can see an example of it in this headband project. We've got garter stitch here and applied I-cord on both sides. Today, I'm going to show you how to work it on both sides as well. You can see that it's the same on the back side as the front side in this case. Applied I-cord is worked at the beginning and end of a row when you're knitting back and forth. It doesn't really work for in the round. So this is a good finish for things like blankets or scarves where you want to have that thick rolled edge that's made out of stockinette stitch for any stitch pattern in between. In this case, it'll be garter stitch in my example and also in this swatch. Let's get started. So I've already cast on some stitches. Something to note, you can use any cast on you'd like. In this case, because I am making a swatch to test, I cast on enough stitches to show you what we're doing. Whenever you're doing an applied I-cord edge, you want to leave 3 stitches to form the I-cord, each side that you want to have an I-cord on. So in this case, because we're doing it on 2 sides, I have 3 extra here and 3 extra here. If you're just doing it on one, then you only need to have 3 extra on one side, and remember which side that's on. In this case, since we're working both sides, I've got 6 stitches, and then the middle section will be whatever stitch pattern I want. In this case, it's garter stitch again, just because it's easy to see the difference in this case. All right, let's get started. So to knit an I-cord on the edges, you're going to be working back and forth and slipping. In this case, we're working an I-cord edge at the end of every row. You can also work it at the beginning, but in this case, I'm going to show you how to work it at the end of a row rather than the beginning of a row. So we are going to knit all the way across until the last 3 stitches. I will start off here and we'll talk about I-cord as I go. So as you're knitting, again, this is garter stitch. If you're doing another stitch, you'll be working your pattern across and keeping that intact. So this is a great edging for even lace or cables, something you want to lie flat. The I-cord edge does help a stitch pattern lay flatter if it does curl. It also just makes a nice finished edge because some stitch patterns have kind of a ragged side edge. All right, so now that we're all the way to the end, I have 3 stitches left on my left needle. Those will now become the I-cord. What you're going to do is you're going to bring your yarn to the front and you're going to slip these stitches purlwise, which means you're inserting your needle down through the front, slipping it off. 1, 2, 3. Turn your needle so you're ready to go in your next round. And you'll see, in this case, I've got my purl bumps from the stitches I worked, and then these look like knit stitches still. And that's what we want to see. We want to see that these stitches at the beginning of the row, every time we turn our work, look like knits. So again, we're going to go in through that last stitch and we're going to knit it. You'll notice that our yarn is coming from the 3rd stitch in. That's exactly where it should be. When you're doing an I-cord, by reaching across and knitting with it, you're essentially pulling that last stitch in towards the 3rd stitch and making it roll, and that creates that nice rolled edge. So we're going to knit all the way back across to the last 3 stitches. So remember, the last 3, if you're working an I-cord, on the last stitches, the last 3 stitches will always be slipped. And it's easy to remember with garter stitch because you're only just knitting all the way across. So just knitting, knitting, knitting until the last 3 stitches. Then we always, in this case, bring our yarn to the front before slipping the last 3 stitches purlwise. So again, here we are at the last 3. Bring the yarn to the front so it's ready to go when you're working the other direction. Insert your knitting needle down through the stitch purlwise, 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 slipping them off. Turn your work and you'll be able to see, again, these look like knit stitches, because they are, and these are purl stitches. So that's how you can kind of tell where you are in your row, and you're ready to knit into that first stitch again. So again, your yarn's coming from the 3rd one in, reaching over, pulling it through to make that edge roll. Okay, we're knitting all the way across. And then we'll take a pause and look at what we've made before I'm going to jump forward in time and show you what a few rows look like all together so you can tell what it's supposed to start looking like. So again, we're knitting to the last 3 stitches. There's the last 3, bringing our yarn forward and slipping them purlwise before turning our work. Okay, I'll see you in a little bit. Okay, so we've worked across a few rows and you can see the I-cord edging starting to take shape on both sides. Something I wanted to talk about before we got any further is that while you're working back and forth, because we're doing it on 2 sides, in the end, it will look pretty much identical from the front to the back side. However, while it's still in progress and you haven't blocked or it hasn't really had time to relax, you'll notice that on each side, one set of I-cord will be pretty seamless this way, and then the other side will be curling over. So there's a little bit of a gap, and it's more noticeable in other yarns. I wanted to talk about it in case you were noticing it and thought you were doing something wrong. However, that will even out and both sides will curl very much like the swatch I had earlier. You'll see that this looks pretty identical, but I know that one side has that little bit of a kind of gap and a curl versus a smooth side that evens out once you're all done. So don't worry about it. If that's something you're noticing as you go and you were worried you weren't doing it right, you were doing it right. And in the end, it will all come out looking pretty much identical on both sides. And that is how to knit applied I-cord. I love adding this edging to dishcloths to make the edges look nice for longer, and it's a really nice decorative edge to afghans. It's such a handy technique that you can use for all sorts of projects. If you found this tutorial helpful, be sure to click the thumbs up and leave a comment down below. Subscribe to knitting.com if you'd like to stay in the loop, and check out our other social media channels. Until next time, happy knitting!